So when it comes to genes related to overweight and obesity, many people believe there are genes that are related to, really making you eat more, and there's no such genes. All the genes related to obesity or overweight are related to two centers or multiple centers. Centers related to satiety, the centers in the brain, they said, yes, you've had enough to eat, now you can wait for the next meal. And the ones that control appetite, they would say, now it's time for me to eat. Okay, this is, it looks like it's complicated, but it's not. I'm going to simplify. So this is an area of a brain called the hypothalamus. That's where energy balance is maintained. And it's maintained by this guy here. Let me show you here. Leptin. I know when we talk about food, a lot of people discuss glucose and insulin. Oh, don't eat this because there's insulin spike, and insulin spike is bad for you. So I want to move our attention away from insulin and pay attention to leptin. Leptin is this guy here that basically works like that. We eat, then fat gets stored for later, so we eat. We spend the energy, we spend whatever we ate, we spend that in energy, and then we keep some for the future, otherwise we would have to be eating 24/7, right? Then the fat cells will secrete leptin, and this leptin then is going to tell the brain that you had enough to eat. So the brain needs to see the leptin, the message, and once that happens, then increased leptin is going to signal the brain, you've had enough to eat, now it's time to stop. And that's wonderful if you're eating the right food and you're not eating excess. But what happens in most cases is that, and just so you know, so anytime, as you can imagine, you eat, you get the energy stored, the fat cells secrete leptin, the brain sees leptin. So when the brain does not see leptin, so when it's low leptin, the brain sees starvation. And if it sees starvation, it says, you need to eat right now, okay? The problem is, so there's a condition, a genetic condition that is called leptin deficiency. In these individuals, they have a mutation and they don't produce leptin. So they continue to eat, and they never have the signal from leptin telling the brain, you've had enough to eat. So they will never stop eating. So when I give this talk, a lot of people say, maybe I have this mutation. No, you don't. This has only been described in one family in the UK in 15 individuals. So everybody else has something else, and it's not leptin deficiency. It's what they call leptin resistance. Many of you may have heard physicians or researchers talk about insulin resistance, right? It's you produce enough insulin, but your body doesn't respond to it. So leptin resistance is the same thing. You're producing enough, but your brain doesn't see it. And you develop leptin resistance anytime your insulin is high. So when you're in constant high insulin, leptin is high, but the brain doesn't see it. So anytime you have increased insulin, you were making almost impossible for your brain to see that you've had enough to eat, and you're going to continue to eat. So that's what we see in people that are overweight, obese. That's what we see in type 2 diabetes, which is related to obesity as well. So, and then just to show, there is a mouse model for type 2 diabetes and obesity, and the feature, the mutation that this mouse has is that it's leptin deficiency. It's leptin deficient, so it doesn't produce leptin. So the mouse only eats and doesn't move. And then the mouse will only move if you move the food from one side of the cage to the next, and the mouse is going to go to the next side and then not move again. Okay, so when we talk about people that are overweight and obese, it's easy to understand why it's hard for them to lose weight and why exercising won't help, or why is it that it's very hard for them to even have the drive to exercise. It's all linked, unless they change what they are eating. And it's not about calorie restriction. We discussed this yesterday. It's not how much you eat, it's what you eat. And if you change what you eat, the signal is going to start being picked up, and then somebody is going to start having the shift, and somebody that doesn't want to exercise will also, out of the sudden, start wanting to exercise. And like I said, you probably heard this many times, that genetics loads the gun, so we can all be walking around with a loaded gun that can be in your drawer or in your closet. The trigger is going to be the environment. And then we can go further and say the trigger is also your lifestyle, is what you eat, it's how you manage stress, it's all of that. If you smoke or not, it's the environment and all the lifestyle choices you make. But most importantly is diet, right? So you can have bad genes, but if your diet is right, those bad genes may never be expressed, and you may be protected against disease or being overweight.